Constructing a wristwatch from parts sourced on eBay is not a particularly difficult thing to do. You will need some basic hand tools, you'll need a movement, preferably one that is working. You'll need a case, and most cases will come with the watch case back and a movement ring. You'll usually receive a crown that will fit the pendant tube of the case. You'll also need a watch dial, and you'll need some watch hands. Now, building or constructing a timepiece for your wrist is not quite the same as building or constructing a watch movement. That's a totally different subject. That's watchmaking. The timepiece is customized in the sense that you have chosen all the individual parts yourself. The case, for example, the particular movement that you want to use, the dial and the hands. They're all your individual choices. Once put together, you will potentially have a unique watch. Something that you have put together yourself, something that you've constructed, something that you can be proud of. I've decided for this video to use an ETA 2892 movement. This is a clone ETA 2892 movement to keep costs down. I did strip this down and service this movement in a previous video. I'll link it in the description below. When I received this movement, it was actually functioning and running quite well. We put it on the timing machine, it seemed to be good. When I stripped it down, it seemed to be lubricated to an acceptable standard. So we're going to go ahead and construct this watch, build this watch with this particular movement, the ETA 2892, or the clone. This is a seagull movement. Once I'd chosen this movement, I decided to look for a case that would fit this movement suitably, and I found this one. I found this on eBay. It's a stainless steel case. It looks rather like a Rolex style case. It's not too large. I like the size of it. It fits the movement very well, and it actually came with a movement ring which downsteps the inner diameter of this movement to fit an ETA 2892 rather perfectly. It would also fit an ETA 2824 as well. As I mentioned before, the case came with a crown. This is a screw-down lock crown. Now, once I'd decided on the case, I knew the inner diameter of the watch case. I decided to choose a watch dial that would also fit this movement, with the outer diameter of the watch dial suitable for the inner diameter of this watch case. This dial also has dial feet which are suitable to fit the ETA 2892 rather exactly. Once I'd chosen the dial, I was then able to source some hands. These watch hands are suitable for the ETA 2892. In fact, I searched for ETA 2892 watch hands, and the length of the hour and minute and second hands are also suitable for the diameter of the watch dial. So let's go ahead and put this all together and see if we can't make something unique, something to be proud of. A small warning: it's not a good idea to touch the movement with your bare fingers. Moisture and oil in your skin can actually tarnish the watch plates, which will make the movement unsightly, especially as we're using a display back. A good solution would be to either purchase finger cots, which can be found on eBay, or use some nitrile gloves. Now that we have adequate protection, let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do is take off this temporary dial that has been placed by the manufacturer of this movement. When you turn over the movement to release the dial, you are going to have to protect the seconds pivot, the minute pinion, and the hour wheel. My solution is to use what we call a casing cushion. On the 2892 movement, the dial is secured with its dial feet with two eccentric screws. There's one here, and if I just move the rotor, there's one here. These will need to be slightly turned so that they loosen their grip on the dial feet so that the dial can be released. And we can put our new dial in its place. For the observant among you, you may notice that there is no branding on this particular watch dial. There's no name. This can give an opportunity for artists like folks to be able to print their own branding or paint their own branding on the watch dial, paint a logo, paint your family name, modify the dial to your own taste. This will be a subject of a future video where we will be pad printing our own watch dials. But for now, we'll just leave this blank and we'll continue by placing the hands. And before placing the hands, we need to actually align the calendar ring so that the calendar turns over when the hands reach 12 o'clock. And so to do that, we're going to pull out the crown into the handset position and we're going to turn the hands clockwise until we see that the calendar starts to turn over. And I can see some movement. There we go. Now, in order to fit the watch movement into the watch case, we do need to remove this crown. Now, this can be a little bit tricky if you've never done it before. On the 2892 movement, you will notice that between the stem and the oscillating weight, you'll see there's a little depression in the bridge here. If we press down with our tweezers down into that depression very, very softly, that will release the stem from the watch movement and it can be pulled away. Before placing the movement with dial and hands into the watch case, we're going to make sure that there's absolutely zero dust or dirt or debris around the dial or inside of the watch case. That we're going to use a rubber bellows or a rubber blower. These can be picked up fairly cheaply in camera shops or horological material suppliers. Clean the outside of the watch case as well as the inside. And now we're just going to place the case over the watch movement as a whole. And at this stage it might be useful to use a magnifying glass or something similar, like a watchmaker's eyeglass, to go through and just check that there are no hairs or fingerprints that may be stuck between the glass and the dial. Then we can just flip the whole assembly over like so. Now we can fit the movement ring. And we're just going to line up the movement by using the crown. Now the movement needs to be secured in the case. Now if your movement was not supplied with case clamps, then you may need to source these online. I've seen them for sale on eBay, or you can purchase them from a watch material supplier such as Cousins. Either way, make sure that they are long enough so that they fit between the movement and the lip inside the case. There's a lip that goes all the way around the inner diameter of the watch case. The movement clamps fit upwards. You'll see there's a slight bend in the actual movement clamp, and when you insert the movement clamp, make sure that the lip points upwards. Now, case clamps come in several different lengths. I've substituted the ones that were supplied with the movement with a slightly longer length. The ones supplied were a little bit too short, and now the movement is rigid in the watch case. Now it's time to fit the crown that was supplied with the watch case to the stem that was supplied with the watch movement. Okay, with the crown secured to the winding stem, I'm going to place it in the watch and see how much I need to trim down the thread in order for the crown to be flush with the case. As you can see, that's quite a lot of overhang from the top of the pendant tube to the bottom of the crown. So we need to cut off the same amount of thread from the stem as this overhang. So I need to cut off 5mm from the thread. I can use a small file just to clean up the end. And we'll just try this for size. It's important not to tighten it down too much because these kind of crowns can get damaged if you try to force them too hard. So I'm just going to remove the crown again. I'm going to apply some Loctite. As I've already mentioned, you should not screw these down too tight. I'll apply a small amount of 290 thread locker to the end of the stem. Now I'm just going to inspect the hole movement inside the watch case and check and make sure that there's no dust particles. I'm applying some silicone grease to the O-ring gasket for the watch back. And once again, I'm just making sure that there's no dust, especially down in the cavity for the O-ring. And now I'm ready to fit the watch back. So here we have it, a rather smart little customized automatic watch based on the 2892 movement. The dial is a little bit bland, there's no markings on the dial at the moment. This is something we're going to deal with in a future episode. So make sure you click subscribe, and when you click subscribe you'll see a little bell icon. You can click on that and you'll be notified when I upload new content. And in a future episode we'll add some more character to this watch by designing and fitting our own customized watch dial. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.